up, everybody? My name is Cecile. I'm a financial therapist and the co-founder of Mindfulness Money. We are so pleased to have Interac sponsor some of the work that we do, believing in our mission and making sure that we're empowering you with the right information for a successful journey in a new country here in Canada. So what you're gonna watch right now is two segments. The first one is my interaction with Ibrahim, a newcomer who came recently from the Middle East and is starting to lay a new foundation in Canada. We're going to talk to him about some of the experiences he's been through and listen to his vulnerable shares of what it's like to be a newcomer in Canada, navigating a new financial system. And then I'm going to share with you some of the tips to help you in fraud prevention, particularly because being new in a country makes you a perfect target for scammers. And we want to make sure to help you with the right products and services and knowledge to prevent that from happening. So tune in and let us know your feedback after you listen to all this. We are taking a moment today to talk about the newcomer experience and all the financial struggles and emotional experiences that they go through. Before we dive into it with our guest today, I just want to take a moment to thank Interac, our sponsor, for being a big believer in the work that we do and being on board in supporting the work and making sure it's accessible for everybody. So thank you so much. So without further ado, I'd love to actually bring it to you, Ibrahim, to introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself a little bit.
I'm Ibrahim Ramzat. I'm a video creator, and I've been in Toronto for 15 months only.
15 months, so that's pretty new. Just to give everybody an overview of what we're here to talk about, this particular video is going to be two particular sections. The first is highlighting the financial experience of newcomers, and the second is the emotional impact on the mental health and well-being as part of navigating this new landscape in a new country. And we're also going to make sure to leave you with some mindfulness tools to support you in grounding and navigating this new territory as you embark on a new chapter in life as a newcomer. So before we dive into it further, can you tell us a little bit more, since you've been here only 15 months, what was it like coming to a new country, making that decision? Like, what happened behind the scenes for you?
It was very overwhelming to change different continent. It's not like a different country, a different continent. I have prepared myself a lot. I have talked to plenty of my friends who have moved to Toronto recently. They have prepared me emotionally to this move, but it still was a huge move for me. Mm-hmm. I've been adapting really well so far, but there is definitely huge changes between where I lived. I was born and raised in Dubai, and between Toronto. So yeah.
What were some of the major themes and what came up for you as part of that change?
Probably like the one thing that I'm still struggling until today is the currency, because I have born and raised in a certain currency, and I'm dealing today with the Canadian dollar. Like it's also different than the US dollar. So sometimes when I'm buying, like even until today, even when I buy groceries from Costco, if I see something for $10, like I need like few seconds to change the currency in my mind and then make this decision.
So understand the value. That's very interesting. I never thought about that. And that's why it's very exciting to be talking to you, because you're literally bringing the fresh newcomer perspective versus just theories that we speculate about what that can be. So thank you so much for opening up about that. So, so you're automatically doing extra work and translating what that currency is and making all that math, which adds to the stress of day-to-day transactions.
Exactly.
But aside from the currency, do you find that the tax system here is obviously very different? So on top of having to do all this translation, I'm seeing you, tax is like the first thing that comes into a lot of people's mind when they think about Canada compared to a lot of the countries where tax systems don't exist. So what was that like for you?
Like the main payments, the main monthly payments for me was fixed. So I can think about it, decide about it, and have a budget for it. But on the day-to-day transaction, when I see something and I know that at the cashier it will increase, so it's also like more mental calculations that I have to do. I've never lived or traveled to a country where the taxes is as much as in Toronto. So it's like, it was a shock for me, but I'm still adapting to how things are working. And also the annual tax that I have to do, someone have helped me. Like there's an office where they help newcomers, and they did the taxes for me. It was a whole new thing that I've never tried. Like I've never done it before.
So the word taxes, be it if you were raised in a country where already that was part of the system, or you immigrated into it later in life, it brings up a lot of emotions in people. So I'm curious, as somebody who comes to Canada, and now that you're talking about taxes, you're specifically referring to the taxes applied to items you're purchasing, but then there's also the income tax.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about, what is your emotional experience with this word and concept?
I've asked my friends why I'm paying all this money. Like I've Googled it a lot, like where this money is going on and how the system works, until I have been satisfied that, okay, this is going to the government, where it's going to be paid to me as a Canadian citizen in future. So it was a lot of money to pay, but thinking about the taking like a bird view on how things are working and how the system works, I was like almost satisfied that, okay, this money is going somewhere where we are benefiting from it as a society. It's not like I am paying like 1,000 or 2,000 for the government.
Yes, and it's hard for a lot of people who come from areas that there's a lot of corruption or disbelief with governments and systems to actually let go of this money and trust that it's going to show up in ways of services and other ways that will come back to you. So it's interesting you say that, because a lot of people come from different parts of the world, and this concept of tax bring up a lot of different emotions. So this brings us to some of the financial tips that we want to really cover to ensure supporting newcomers. The first is, like we're talking about, understanding the system that you're getting into. Taxes is just one of the components here in Canada, but other two really important things to also consider is the concept of building credit and the concept of debt. Because even though debt exists in a universal way, every country has debt, it's different in the ways, the forms, the interest rates, the different practical ways that you need to understand how debt works in Canada specifically. So tell me about your experience really introducing yourself to these concepts of credit, debt, as well. We already covered taxes.
So I grew up in a place where there's no credit score. So credit score does not exist. Nobody will ask you about it. And no, like if I want to rent or buy a car, nobody will ask about my credit score. And also I grew up with the fear of having a credit card, because in my mind, it's like money that I don't have. So I always had a debit card. Yeah, debit. Yeah. So I've never had a credit card, because I have the fear that, okay, I'm gonna spend more money than what I have.
So just to rephrase what you're saying, you grew up with this ingrained belief that debt is bad and it should be avoided. And there's actually fear and overwhelming response to what it would be like to actually take on debt. Exactly.
Nowadays, when I've moved to Toronto, and when I've moved to a new place a couple of months ago, and I've knew that the system, like almost everyone will ask for credit score, which I don't have it, because I don't have a credit score. So that will push me to have a credit card and start building this credit score for me.
So now you came to a country where it's encouraged for you to take a credit card. It's like the first thing you need to do to start building your credit score. And it's starting to challenge this foundational belief that you grew up around, where credit should be avoided at all costs. So having said that, what was it like for you to take, was it your first credit card when you came here? First credit card ever?
I haven't had it yet, because I moved to a new place where they didn't ask for a credit score. So because I have this deep belief that credit is bad, like I'm pushing it away. Like I know that the system works on credit cards nowadays in Toronto, and I have to get a credit card and build my credit score. It's like I still have this burden that I don't want to do it today. I just wanted to do it when I need it. It's not when I want it.
So let's take a moment here to address newcomers who are in your shoes right now. It is certainly something that is on a lot of the minds of what to do to make it in this country as far as credit is concerned. And there are other ways to build your credit without needing a credit card, such as making sure that you are on top of your monthly payments, especially if these bills are registered to your name. If phone bill is an example, your rent, maybe your car payments. So any bill that is registered under your name, as long as you're making these payments in a timely way, it definitely makes a big difference in how it shows up on your credit score. So there's definitely other ways as well to ensure that you are building the right foundation to support you in this new country. Now, let's go back to the emotional experience of having debt. And having the need to build a credit. So you haven't yet experienced that, and you're still exploring your discomfort around it. How are you starting to think about it and how you want to move forward in it with this country?
I haven't planned it yet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still working on having a debit card and having like a monthly budget for each month.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't thought about it,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I'm gonna take baby steps towards it.
The reason I bring it up is because one of the financial tips that I wanted to support our audience through is the whole concept of housing. And because home ownership and real estate investments in particular are a big staple of our Canadian economy, a lot of people rely on mortgages to fund their dream of owning a house. And mortgages naturally are a form of debt, and in most cases, it's the highest and biggest amount of debt you will ever own. So I'm just curious, when you're thinking about this concept of housing, is home ownership something you think about? Is mortgages something you take into consideration? And I just got curious about what is that like for you?
I haven't thought of buying a new home yet, but definitely if I want to buy a home, definitely I'll go through the process of having a mortgage, and it will definitely be a debt.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I haven't thought of buying a house so far.
Mm-hmm. So for newcomers who are coming into this country, like I said, real estate being the big staple of our economy as it is, it's very important to kind of understand what are your goals around housing. Is home ownership important for you? There's so many different belief systems around that. And I think the new generation is actually trying to not necessarily rebel against the concept of home ownership, but take a moment to actually consider if it's important for them. The older generation, a lot of people had home ownership as like one of the most important goals to work towards, and paying down their mortgage as fast as they could. And home ownership was like something you take pride in. The newer generation, I'm finding, is actually rebelling against that and thinking that I don't care about owning a home. I want to travel more. I want to maybe embrace the nomad experience. I want to create more community-based living, or whatever the case may be. But there are different thoughts that are coming into this equation that probably shifts how we view that. So take a moment as a newcomer to reflect on what your goals are in that process, and ensure that right off the bat you're building the right financial frameworks to support these long-term goals. Because they could be like a time-stamped goal, something you want to create in 5 years' time or 10 years' time or a few months' time. Regardless, we need strategies to support us through that.
In addition of thinking of traveling more, I'm thinking of living in different cities in Canada. Like I've landed in Toronto, and I have few friends in Toronto, but I also have friends in Vancouver, and I have never been there. I have friends in Sudbury, in Alberta, in Ottawa. So I would love to experience living in different cities before I say like, this is home. This is where I'm gonna spend the rest of my life, and this is where I want to buy a home.
That's a really good point. And yes, you're right. Like within Canada, there's different vibes to different cities. So if the opportunity, I mean, you're a single young man, so having the ability to go around different cities is more feasible for you than maybe a family with kids that need to start schooling and whatnot. So it's important to kind of consider what that is. The third tip we want to talk about is establishing financial stability. So we talked about the housing piece. We talked about understanding the new system that is part of Canada, which included debt, credit, and taxes. But now we want to also explore the basics, which is understanding how you can create financial stability through your income, through managing and tracking your expenses, and getting creative in how to get by in the first few months of settling in a new country. Yeah. Now, one of the advantages you had, Rahim, as from what I know about you, is your job not only was remote, but you also own your own business, and you're a creator, digital creator, and you have your own social media channels. So that job is easily accessible from anywhere in the world. So that was a huge advantage for you. But it also offers an opportunity for newcomers to get creative in one of the ways they can start creating income until they're able to land a secure full-time job, if that is something you need to do for yourself. In your case, though, you were looking to expand your business and continue working on the work that you brought with you from overseas. So tell us more about that experience.
So I quit my corporate job 9 years ago, and I have tried different schedule of working at home. When I moved to Canada, I didn't work-wise, I haven't felt any different, because it's only changing the schedule, changing the time where I sleep. I know that when my team are going to wake up, when my manager will be awake, when we have to text each other, and when we have to schedule our meetings. Other than that, the work is the same, the load is the same. I've been working from home since 9 years, so it's not like a COVID thing. It's like I've been used to working and meeting people from home. I do have a small office in my home. I have a dedicated space for where I call it an office. So that was the main advantage, that I moved to I changed continents, but I still continue working with my team and with the companies that I used to work with in Dubai.
Yeah, so if you're listening to this and you're a newcomer, it's really something interesting to navigate what new opportunities exist for you today to start creating income that maybe didn't exist for you before. Traditional employment, for example, was what we solely relied on to generate money in our life. But now we have other opportunities that can really start and can be flourished anywhere. The other thing I wanted to talk about is also getting creative with your expense tracking. And Interac, for example, offers us a very safe and secure way to send money to different bills that we need to pay, for example, our rent, or if we need to send money to someone that we're buying used furniture from, or whatever the case may be. It's a very secure platform that we can easily rely on and feel safe in engaging with. And that's another thing that's important too, is when we're starting in a new country, we need to get creative in how we fund our needs, maybe how we get our furniture and how we track our expenses, because managing these pieces are important in the long run. So tell me about your experience in doing that.
So I did have a specific budget, and I used to monitor how much I'm paying every single month on groceries, on clothes, on stuff that I need for home, furnitures, food. Mm-hmm. So, and having dinner or eating out. But also because I've moved to a new country where I moved without any winter clothes. Mm-hmm. So I spent around $1,000 last year just getting my winter clothes, mm-hmm. which I don't have to pay this year. Mm-hmm. So definitely I have an Excel sheet divided on each month, and I have a specific budget for each month. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down, but it's like I'm managing it. It's not it's all under control.
That's very empowering, because what's really important for us to understand is sometimes avoiding the work takes more energy out of us than actually doing the work. Yeah. And that's the irony. We avoid things that feel overwhelming and that can potentially increase our anxiety around it, which money obviously tends to do for us. However, when we do the work and create, be it an Excel sheet or any monitoring way to support us in making informed decisions, is really helpful, especially if you're a newcomer. So having said that, let's switch the gears a little bit and dive into the mindfulness experiences that we want to talk about to help you resource yourself in ways that allow you to be more grounded in the experience. And that's what mindfulness tools are for, so that we're responding to life and to money decisions from the present moment versus reacting from fear or anxiety from past or future experiences. So some of the tools around mindfulness, the first is called present moment awareness, which is really about bringing ourselves to the present. And there's two really powerful ways to do that. One is monitoring our breath and consciously connecting with our breath. And the other is a body scan, which is a way for us to quickly scan our body and notice any physical sensations that are happening, which literally brings us back into the present moment. And I know you practice mindfulness and you're a fan of these tools as well. So I'm curious, as a newcomer, have you particularly leaned forward more into mindfulness to support you in this whole transition?
It's like a tool that I have, like I always have it in my pocket. I definitely felt lonely. I've missed my family, I think, for the first time in my whole life. I haven't seen them in 15 months so far. So definitely, mindfulness was a tool that I have that I always use almost every day to just know that, okay, I'm in a safe space. I'm doing what I have to do on daily basis, and I'm good. Because sometimes, like when I just think about it, it's like my mind goes into different places and I start stressing about it. And as you said, on monitoring my body, I usually get tension on my shoulder. So I always reminding myself that to relax and have deep breaths.
Absolutely, that's very important. Another mindfulness tool is non-judgmental observation. And that works in two ways. Non-judgmental, because you're in a new country, it's going to be very easy for you to spot things that you're not used to in the way people dress, the way they show up, the way the system works. There's so many things to easily judge, especially when you're coming from a very different culture or a different society. But the non-judgmental tool also reflects and could reflect inward, judging yourself and how you're showing up in this new space and feeling critical about yourself. And maybe it's particularly hard on you if you are potentially in, like, let's say, a manager position back home, and here you're having to start from maybe an entry job level or whatever the case may be. There's a lot of guilt and shame and anger and frustration and so many emotions that can come up as a result of that experience. So that non-judgmental observation is an invitation to continuously go back into getting curious about what you're noticing without judging it and attaching so much meaning into it. It's a really powerful tool. Did it show up for you?
Definitely. And I felt comfortable to be vulnerable. So from day one until today, I'm using I have been in Toronto for a year. So I'm telling people that I'm new here. In case that I need to ask them about specific things, that how the system works, or in case I did a mistake, or if I judged something, or if I said something, they will know that it's not something that I intentionally did.
Yeah.
It's something I did because I'm just new.
That's a really powerful thing, actually. So any of the newcomers here, we invite you to lean into your story, lean into your vulnerability, so that people can have their guards down around you and be more compassionate about any mistakes that you may do. Sometimes it's language barrier, sometimes it's just a cultural difference and things of that nature. The last thing I want to mention is to make sure you're creating a daily mindful routine. So we're sharing different tools, and there's lots of different tools out there for you to navigate, but create a daily practice out of that, because it's really important to consistently show up for yourself and grounding yourself in this new experience. So have you been able to do that for yourself?
Definitely. I do journaling. I do journal almost every day. And like even different types of journaling. Sometimes in the morning, just a stream of thoughts. Sometimes I'm just like actually noting down what's going on in my life, or other than that, I think that's it.
There's different things like meditation, yoga, lean into movement, and build a community. Like, that aspect is so important. Actually, in our Mindfulness and Money membership, we believe that healing happens in community. So it's very important as a newcomer to create this new support system around you and build your social capital, because it's very important to lead into that. So thank you so much again for coming and vulnerably sharing your experience with us. I hope this was helpful for you. You're able to relate to some of these challenges that Brahim has been going through. And thank you again for Interac supporting us in spreading awareness on these experiences.
Interac is a unique Canadian company that enables those with a Canadian bank account to transact digitally using their own money. When you see the Interac logo on your debit card, when you sign into your online banking services, or when you're shopping, you know that your purchases are being managed by an organization dedicated to Canadians to ensuring people can transact safely and securely using their own money.